Hey there.
Why, hello.
Welcome, everybody, to
Welcome.
Two Brothers Talk About Food and Movies. This is, that's Anthony Arkin, my brother.
Hey, look, it's Matthew Arkin. It's my brother over there.
Yeah, here we are in the same room hanging out. Before we start, just want to let you guys know we love to take comments and talk back and forth with you as we do this. So feel free to join in on the chat, ask us questions about food, ask us questions about the movie we're talking about, ask us questions about other movies. We don't care. And we would love to hear about who you are and where you're watching from. So please join in. And also email us your favorite recipes. And if you do, we will cook them ourselves if we like the look of them and talk about them on the show, which is
Yes,
incredibly exciting. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. It's been a rough week. I think
Yeah.
I had some really bad news. We lost a very dear friend of mine and my family's passed away a few days ago, and I know everybody's dealing with a lot of drama and chaos all over the world right now. This brought it home in a big way. So been dealing with that, trying to process that, and anyway, I'd just like to say, Robert Reams, if you're listening, we love you and miss you, and also like to send love to Karen and Rob's family and everybody. So not to start off on a very sad note, really, but just to kind of touch base on the reality of what's going on and
where
that,
we are.
Where we all are. I think it's touches why we started this in the first place. I mean, it's a silly conversation in a lot of ways. We're joking, but this all came out of a real need to connect with each other and share stuff. And in this case, a lot of the stuff that we do and we work on is silly and fun, and hopefully this is a little bit of a restorative to people. It certainly has been to me, and that's the reason why I wanted to do this tonight, was because it's really it's about connection and all that. So anyway, thanks for asking. That's what's been going on. Yeah. How are you?
That's really what this started with, because we were, as the pandemic deepened, and I live alone, and was not losing it, but losing it. And you and I were connecting on these long conversations, and we realized, all we talk about is food and movies.
Yeah, keeping us sane and keeping us light, and
and it was really picking me up, and so that's why we're doing this and why we're sharing this with everybody, and we hope you guys have as much fun with it as we do. I also want to mention, so that people watching know that we don't have sponsors, so I may mention some things tonight, or when we're talking about food, we're going to talk about magazines or websites or people, and we don't have any connection with anything.
I don't know, and you're the only person I know, really, so I don't have sponsors.
Yeah, we don't talk. Nobody else wants to talk to us.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes when we do talk about how much we love a recipe, we get a cease and desist from people saying, please stop talking about how much you love our food, because we know nobody has any respect for you guys, and we're a little worried that
it can backfire.
Yeah. So we did actually get some lovely comments here from some friends.
Really? That's nice.
Just saying,
thank you.
Coming in and
thank you, Monica. That's very sweet of you.
And Sandra also. People.
Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So today we're going to get around to talking about Against All Odds, which we watched, which was the movie for the week, but a little preview of the recipes. Tony's got a white chili that we're going to hear about, right? Chicken chili.
Yeah, you're going to hear a little bit about that. Yeah, sure.
And I've got some skillet beer bread that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about some breakfast, 2 different kinds of breakfast, quesadilla, breakfast weird things that I made.
Yeah, you've been on a breakfast kick with stuff.
And also a recipe that I heard about on the show on NPR, The Splendid Table, with the incredible host Francis Lamb, talked about something, a chicken braise that I made that was pretty exceptional. So we're gonna get to talking about that. But again, don't forget to jump in and talk to us. Tell us about where you're from, and what you like to cook and eat. Also, I wanted to talk about the philosophy a little bit of how we're picking the movies. And I'm going to pass it over to you. I'm going to pass it over to you, Tony.
Thanks a lot.
I'm thirsty. I need something to drink. Do you?
Let me see if I.
I'm going to go get a beer or something.
I think I have something here for you.
You have something for me?
Yeah, let me look around here. I got something here. I just got like a glass, but it's a special glass.
It's a special glass?
It is a special glass. Yeah.
Let me see it.
Oh, yeah. Here you go.
Oh, holy Moses! It's magic. That glass is magic.
I think it's beer. Check it out.
It says it's beer.
Well, there you go. You're very welcome.
My life is so much better now. So thank you. Oh, the other thing, I wanted to mention something about, just to go back to it for a second, with Rob, that when I heard the news, the first thing I did was pick up the phone and call Bruce.
Yeah. Bruce is kind of a similar friend to you.
Yeah, he's my Rob.
Yeah.
And just felt like needing to connect. So to everybody watching, I think that's the message of this time, is to find any way you can to connect with the people you love, because right now it's crazy.
Yeah, don't put off that phone call or that text or whatever, make the call. It's always worth it.
But let's talk about the philosophy of this show.
Okay.
It's serious, some very serious stuff, philosophy and how the movies are picked, because we have a very serious system and a way of going about it, which Tony's going to explain to you.
The system was what could we watch that we had both knew. First of all, we wanted to see stuff that we knew about or maybe had seen but not in a long time. Right. So we were at least revisiting stuff that we didn't remember very well or hadn't seen in a while. So that was part of the criteria for us. I kind of think initially we were thinking about, like, because we were 2 brothers, like kind of typical guy movie things from when we were younger, like going back to the late 80s when we were really like developing our taste in film and stuff, or maybe early 80s actually. Let's be realistic about that. So like starting off covering stuff from the 80s and the 90s, and picking stuff. I put a bunch of titles together that hit those criteria, and that were also, in my opinions, movies that should be re-examined a little bit, that maybe haven't really, that have been under discussed. And not that Misery necessarily, for instance, which was our first movie, was under discussed at the time. It was a hit, but it really hasn't, it's not something that people really refer to a lot in conversation anymore, or talk about in film schools or stuff. So it was I kind of like going back and finding gems that are, maybe could use a little bit of love, because we all know the movies that get all the love. I mean, some of them deserve it, but it's nice to hear. It's like I like the Beatles, but there's other, like, they get a lot of attention.
And they're not the Dave Clark Five.
No, that is true. You're safe. You're safe there.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to hear about movies that are slightly different. And then on top of that, I know, like you're a big, like into the detective mythology.
Yeah.
And that crosses into noir, which I'm a huge fan of in movies. And so that area of kind of noirish stuff, I think, is also mostly represented on the list. So that's kind of what we're doing too.
And the list also, just so people know, the list was curated. We curated it together, which means that about 97% of it are movies that Tony picked and 3% of movies that I picked, because Tony, I know a lot about movies. Tony knows a lot about movies.
Well, you're setting me up, because there's people out there who are terminators of movies.
Right.
If they call in, I'll be in big trouble. But I have spent an inordinate amount of time watching movies. That's
I want to backtrack for 1 second to the Dave Clark Five. There, an embarrassing moment in my life was listening to a song and talking about how much I love the old Beatles, and somebody saying to me, "This song is not the old Beatles." I'm like,
and you were like, exactly.
That's what I mean. I hate this song. I love the old Beatles. And it was and this wasn't that long ago. I mean, I was a fully fledged adult person.
You should have known a little bit better than to say that, in other words.
Yeah. And it was the Dave Clark Five. It wasn't the Beatles.
Can you remember what song it was?
Absolutely.
Could you hum a few bars of that?
Yeah. Give me one kiss and I'll be happy.
I totally see why you'd think that song was the Beatles. I think it is the Beatles, and I think they were wrong.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't know, because it was right at the same time as the British invasion.
Exactly like the Beatles. That song.
And all the chord progressions and harmonies are Beatles harmonies and everything. So I just thought,
yeah. Well, that I would have made the same mistake.
Yeah. It sounds like it's off Meet the Beatles. Their that album.
You sang it, and I'm like, I thought that was the Beatles. So there you go.
You made me feel so much better.
I didn't say I knew a lot about the Beatles, though. I didn't say that.
So should we do it?
You want to jump into this? You want to?
Yeah. Well, you, against all odds, let me preface it by saying I was under a bit of a misconception about our movie list.
Okay.
Right. So I was actually fearful of coming to the show tonight and talking to you, because I watched Against All Odds yesterday.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the time I had this expression on my face.
Right. And just during the credits, did you need glasses? Or
actually, yes, it was during the credits, because I want to talk a little bit about how I'm proceeding from here on out to talk about the movies. Tony's got knowledge about movies. I'm sitting there with my phone in my hand with an app on it, so I can speak into my phone and it will just take notes and type them out. And I'm going to watch the movies, and I'm just going to say random crap into my phone. Yeah. And at the end of the movie, I will have notes on all of the stuff that I want to talk about.
Right. And at the end, the only thing on the recording was the word "why."
Exactly. And the very first note that I have is, and actually, I want to say there's a sound that my younger brother Tony makes when you're talking about something that's just really bizarre and horrible, and you'll tell Tony some story of like somebody did something terrible, and he's like, well, obviously they did that, they're a jerk. So Tony's response is quite often he just goes, huh. So that was the feeling inside me. And when I took this note, Rachel Ward has top billing.
That is a bit of a.
And I'm watching the movie and it starts and it says Rachel Ward. And I went, huh.
Yeah. It started off like that for you and probably didn't much change.
That was a highlight of the evening.
So for those people out there who don't know what the movie is, let's frame it. Let's say, give the stats.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about Against All Odds from 1984, starring Jeff Bridges and Rachel Ward and James Woods. What you have to say is him like that. You have to be like, and James Woods. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dorian
Harewood.
Directed. Well, yeah, there's a great cast here, which we'll get into, but here's the stars. Here's why it was made. These three people. Taylor Hackford was a big, successful filmmaker who was coming off of Officer and a Gentleman before this film. I think he had just done Officer and Gentleman before. I heard that he actually offered that to Jeff Bridges as well, but Jeff Bridges couldn't do that movie.
A movie that I love, by the way.
That's a good movie.
And I would not know that these two movies were directed by the same director.
So that's the stats. It is a silky smooth, very 80s styled, romantic, noirish thriller. I mean, I guess it's a thriller.
Aspiring to be,
aspiring to be a noir thing, and so that's why we picked it. And I remember also it was when I was a kid, and I think you're a little older than me, so you remember the early days of cable, right? Where
I remember when there was no cable.
Okay, but so you remember the early days of cable where you could, you could watch an R-rated movie all of a sudden in your home, and the folks, your parents aren't around, and you watch this was one of those movies where you're like, wow.
Yeah, I'm doing the eyebrow thing.
Yeah, I mean it was a very sexy, steamy movie.
Yeah,
and it was known at the time for being a really hotsy, steamy movie.
Yeah. Now it could be on. You could show this on children's television.
Now it's like a Mentos commercial, but then it was a big deal. So it had this reputation, as being an adult, thriller kind of thing.
Mentos commercial.
I've seen some
fresh makeup.
That's a European company. They make crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But so that's the movie, and I remember seeing pieces of it when mom and dad weren't around, when you can watch a little bit of Cinemax illicitly. Nobody knew it was R-rated. It was called Cinemax back then. Yeah, for this very reason. So it's a very unhealthy, puerile thing that this is all kind of based on. This movie has just kind of got this teenage lust vibe around it, and I don't know why. Seeing it now, I really can't figure it out, but it was the way it was promoted.
Yeah, because the movie's got no heat at all.
I agree with you there.
Rachel Ward is, but there's no chemistry between the two of them.
Well, Rachel Ward is lovely. I don't think that Jeff Bridges has ever been better looking in a movie, which means he's one of the best looking people that's ever been.
You got two of the best looking people ever.
At the prime of their careers, in terms of, young stars, they were just beautiful, And
there's no, but here's the thing, there's no chemistry between them, but I think a lot of that is the script. Because I
can lay a lot of blame there.
I have some dialogue that I would like to read you. So they're down in Mexico. They've had their affair, now things are the money is running out,
let's quickly just say Jeff Bridges has been sent to Mexico by a shady friend to go retrieve the ex-girlfriend who got away.
Yeah.
So it's a classic kind of noir setup.
Right. But he falls for her.
Yeah, he's a sad sack football player who's injured and has nothing else to do. So he goes down there looking for her.
Right. And is the bad guy going to catch up to us?
Right.
And so they have an argument, and she's running away. They're at the Mayan ruins because that's where lovers have arguments. And there's a little sort of bad subtext thing of he's an injured football player, and they're at the site of the Mayan games that they played with the skulls of their enemies.
That's what they don't really explain that. They you think, I mean, that's what he says.
Yeah.
It's not him.
Here's the dialogue. So she's running away from him, and he grabs her and says, "Jesus, I love you. You've become everything I'm about. Don't you understand that?" And she cries out, "Can't anyone love me without it being life or death to them?" And he says, "Most people are afraid they're never going to be loved like that." And then he walks away. And she says, "Terry, wait. I've lied and used people all my life because I thought everybody did. Everybody except my brother. And look where it got him." He committed suicide. "It's just so hard for me to trust anyone." And he says, "I'm not anyone."
I'm not anyone.
I'm not anyone. And she says, I know you're not, and I'm trying. I want to trust you. God, I love you. I love you. And here is the best response ever to a woman telling you she loves you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to use it in the future. If a woman ever says to me, I love you again, I am going to say, come on, the park's closing. Let's go to the sweat house.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So they are not helped by the dialogue.
I would like to go back.
The park's closing. Let's go to the sweat house.
Well, I think we all have to admit that the phrase "come on" is the most overused phrase in the history of movies. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
The thing is exploding. Come on. There's another quote. Actually, the quotes start earlier in the film because this is like the first line. This is on IMDb. This is the first interchange that you really hear.
Yeah.
We catch up in the very beginning of the movie. Jeff Bridges has just gotten down to Mexico. He's down there and he's asking people, have you seen this? He's got a picture of the woman, and he's asking everybody he can find, have you seen this woman?
Hasu vista esta mujer?
He says a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Apparently, in the beginning, I remember laughing at this. He goes up to one man who I think maybe a cab driver.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bridges says, "Senor, have you seen this woman?" And the taxi driver says, "Oh, no, sir." And he says, "Gracias." So he's speaking Spanish to the guy clearly after the guy's like, "No, I speak English, and you were just speaking English, but now for some reason you decide to speak Spanish." Okay. So which is it going to be?
Yeah,
it starts early. The amazing things start pretty early. So did you have just a horrible time, or because I had a great time.
I loved watching it.
Okay.
I was laughing and awestruck through much of it. We've only covered one thing on my list.
Oh, I'm sure. I want to hear more. I wanted to get the temperature read, like you were like waiting to turn this off, because I couldn't believe how entertaining it.
This movie puts the hack in Hackford. There's no doubt about it.
Mr. Hackford, if you're listening,
we love you and your work, and
Officer and Gentleman is great. Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll is amazing. You're brilliant.
But
this
and
movie,
we've all had bad days.
This movie had some rough spots.
And actually, if he's ever going to hire me, I actually love this movie and think it's brilliant.
This never happened. We never had this conversation. Okay, you want to go trade off amazing things, or do you want to just give me amazing things?
Or however you want. My list is hanging here. It's ready to go whenever.
I have probably more. I like to support the positive things about the movies that we're seeing. So I'm going to get to that. So I'm going to go off on some things that made no sense. Like, I've never heard a dope talk more about football in my life. This guy was talking about passes that he missed and throws that he could have had and guys that are killing themselves on the field. Like he was some kind of noble person. And he talked about it to the point where I was like, nobody likes football. Even people that watch football don't want to talk about it like this. Just shut up. No. He goes to these beautiful Mayan ruins, these temples, I guess. I don't know. They don't tell you what they are. So they go down to Cozumel, I think it might be.
Yep, it's Cozumel.
And she goes on a boat trip, and he's following her, and he kind of sneaks by, finds her on this little island with all these beautiful ruins. I researched that. Nothing had ever been filmed there before. This was the first time the government down there had ever let any crew come and film at these very precious, pricelessly beautiful, famous ruins. Yeah. Toltec and Mayan, I guess it was Toltec ruins. I think I may have that wrong. However, I wouldn't know because they don't describe it.
You only know about the Toltecs because of the preamble to Battlestar Galactica. That's the only way you know about the Toltecs.
I've been misinformed about many things. But this place is this beautiful place. We're not told anything about it. They get there. He looks at it, and he instantly assumes that it was a football stadium.
Yeah,
it may have been. I don't know. They don't tell you what it is, but he says, "Oh, it was a football stadium." And he looks at a hieroglyphic of a person from that time, like a carving on a stone of a Toltec man, and I guess he's got a headdress on, and he looks at him, and he's like, "Oh, look, he's got shoulder pads, just like me."
Yeah,
and you're like, this is the extent of the history lesson. These people get to film in this amazing location for the first time in history, and it's basically just a place to talk about football and then to have sex. They go and have the worst sex scene that you've ever seen in a Mayan or a Tolkien.
The sex scene in the room was better than that sex scene.
Tommy Wiseau should have given them some pointers on this, but to me that was that. I don't mind poking at that one because to me I was like, really, you guys are just you're having sex in like you're in another country, like you don't know what this temple is. It's a little disrespectful, perhaps.
Yeah, the sweat house. There you go.
Was that the sweat house?
That's the sweat. Let's go to the sweat house. That's right when they go to have sex.
I thought that was like a lobster joint down on the beach. I didn't know that was.
Yeah, I want to eat at a restaurant called the Sweat House.
I didn't know that it was. They were going to use it as a sex crash pad.
Let's go get some oysters at the Sweat House.
So yeah, incredible. It must be said, beautiful locations, beautifully shot, very great, like very poppy colors and everything looked beautiful, but disrespectful.
Yeah. Now, I was quite amazed at how much he looks like his dad in this movie at times.
I think that it's safe to say that he is so much better looking than his dad ever was. That his dad is great, but Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, but I'm talking about there were the first shot, the first few minutes of it. I felt like it was so clearly watching the son of the guy from Sea Hunt, which I grew up on.
You grew up on that's a little before my time. So
Yeah.
I've seen it, but you grew up watching him in a way I didn't.
Yeah.
Really.
And he was gorgeous, his dad,
Okay.
when he was younger.
Well, I'm glad to know you feel that way.
Well, I mean, I'm told.
I'm happy. Everybody should have things that they love in their life. That's great.
Okay, another thing I want to talk about, though, and we don't have to talk about it for long, but I just want to say, he goes down to Mexico. He's on the beach.
Yeah.
It's the 80s. Speedos. Who thought that was a good idea?
But as regards this movie or just in general?
Just in Speedos. Oh. I
think that's a whole other show, Matthew. I mean, I don't know. We don't even have time.
We don't have time to talk about Speedos.
I think they never really caught off here, though. I think they were very big in Europe. They may still be. I don't know. But I think they were very much a popular item in Europe. And
Tangerine Speedo is actually one of my favorite songs.
Is that your stripper name?
Tangerine Speedo? No, Tangerine Speedo is a great song. They used it in the soundtrack to the first Charlie's Angels movie.
I wouldn't know if you were pulling my leg right now or not.
No, I'm dead serious. It's a very funny song.
Did they ever cover any Kid Creole and the Coconuts numbers?
No, Tangerine Speedo is the song, not
okay. Who did it? Because they can't be better than Kid Creole and the Coconuts in this film.
The name of the band is not the Nylons. Tangerines. I'm going on the Google. Tangerine.
Nobody is coming to your rescue.
The name of the brand is Caviar.
The band is called Caviar?
Caviar.
Okay. I was sleeping through this. I must have slept through this whole period in school.
Yeah, no, it's a great song. So I have another question for you. Her mom says she's down. We know she's down in Mexico. She's drawing money from her trust fund. Why doesn't he go to the bank and stake it out? Why does he wander the streets saying, "Have you seen esta mujer"? I mean, is it a commentary on how stupid?
Well, I assume because there was a ticking clock, and she only went to she had to go to Mexico City to get the money. She couldn't just get it anywhere. So I assume she went every month or whatever to withdraw funds, and he didn't want to wait. He wanted to go make the money. So he was like, "Yeah, I'll take your money and go on a vacation and look for her, and maybe I'll get to her before she gets to the bank."
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought.
Well, but then how did he know she was in Cozumel?
Why was he wearing long pants through the whole movie in hot weather? Why?
The next comment I have after why doesn't he stake out the bank where she's drawing her funds? Apparently at some point I just said into my phone, this movie kind of sucks.
Oh, that's just plain mean.
And then I said, I don't buy the attraction between the two of them. I don't understand why it happened. I mean, I get she's an incredible physical specimen. He's an incredible physical specimen. But from a movie with a plot, I expect more than that as to why two people.
Okay. I got you. Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to have it? Because I have. There's a way to frame this that might be a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, I want.
What I think is, I don't think the movie achieves this, but I think the movie is not asking us to think that these are smart or good people. But it's
Good,
not. It's not.
because
But I mean,
they're not.
like, I think that there was a. I feel like maybe I'm wrong. I feel like studio interference happened a little
Yeah.
bit. Officer and Gentleman is a much more gritty. It's a grittier movie than this. It's also a romance, but it's a little grittier than this movie. A little more realistic in terms of the characters' interaction. I think,
Yes.
as I remember it. And it seems just like they were like, no, the studio, this is what they want, and it's a love thing, and it's sex on the beach, so just go shoot the scene, go do this. I mean, it felt like it could have been like that, but I also wonder if we weren't really supposed to think that Jeff Bridges' character is an idiot in a complete just waste of a guy.
Right.
And that she isn't actually also, kind of a morally bankrupt person somehow. Like these are all like noir, damaged noir people who are no good. And I feel like that it could have been so much better if they had let them be like kind of scuzzy people more, like if they'd really let them inhabit that more. And I'm wondering if that wasn't something they were trying to do but just didn't quite succeed with.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, but it seems to me that in those scenarios you have to either have a flawed character looking for redemption or a nihilistic character, right? But not just somebody who's kind of a doofus loser.
Unless that they're trying to update, because they are these slick LA empty people. They're all very empty, it's LA money. James Woods runs a nightclub, I guess, runs this nightclub.
And he's a bookie,
and it's all shady, and they're all corrupt. But I mean, in this kind of neo-noir way, where they're just kind of adrift, and
right.
I just think the movie would have been much more interesting if Jeff Bridges' character had been more like a James Woods character.
Right.
The kind of character James Woods usually plays. And then I feel like then that would have been really scuzzy. Yeah. And then I would have bought that this torrid love affair happened just because they were these, really shallow people who went to do this. But
they're trying to build him as a hero, and there's nothing heroic about it.
No, not at all.
Okay, something you mentioned, I'm going to raise the movie that you're going to yell at me for raising in the same conversation with this, because you talked about LA and the nightclub and the underworld, and then you bring the real estate stuff into it, right?
Chinatown.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
And I felt like they were trying to make a kind of
I thought
spin on that, and I think it's fair to say not succeeding.
All right. Did you know that this movie is actually considered and is a kind of a remake of a very famous film noir movie?
I did not know that.
Called Out of the Past.
Okay.
Starring Kirk Douglas and who
looks a little like Lloyd Bridges.
Exactly. Yeah. It's Robert Mitchum and Kirk Douglas. It's a very famous noir movie that I actually hadn't seen, and we just watched it tonight because I wanted to kind of frame where they were going with Against All Odds. And it's the same plot, but essentially, but so is a lot of noir movies or that plot. So it's not.
Are Kirk Douglas and Robert Mitchum better in that movie?
Yeah. It's a better movie. It's the real thing, I mean, it's not my favorite noir movie, I guess, but it's hard to beat Robert Mitchum. It really is. I mean,
in anything.
he's just like just a wall of amazing man, just a giant slab of amazing man meat. He's incredible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought it was interesting to see that the pedigree actually they were trying to make they were trying to update Noir. They were
I got to
trying.
watch that movie now. I got to see that now.
Yeah, I mean it's got amazing stuff in it, and it's 1947, and it's the real thing. It's trench coats and hats and all of it.
Oh, awesome.
I have to say I'm a big fan of neo noir, like how they were updating noir in the 80s in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were doing it in the 70s also. They've always been kind of reworking noir. I like the 80s style. I just think it's kind of interesting, and there's a lot of them, and it started, I think, you could say it kind of started with Body Heat, like in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood's new fascination with retooling old noir things, but not in an ironic way, the way they did it in the 70s, like like really dedicated to it. So movies like Cutter's Way and Body Heat and
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Yeah, sure, with Rachel Ward.
Yeah.
This is part of kind of an interesting little lineage of neo-noir in the 80s from Hollywood. There are many more, I think, better examples of it, but great car chase. Good car chase in there. Right?
Oh my God. Somebody has a question. Who was the female?
Who was the female? Was Jane Greer was the female lead in Out of the Past, and she was great.
Isn't
she was really
Jane
great.
Greer the mom in who's?
Yes, Jane Greer is the mom in Against All Odds.
Okay. But that car chase, I drive that section of Sunset Boulevard all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this movie when it came out, 1984. So it's 36 years later. I cannot drive.
Shot yesterday.
What?
Could have been shot yesterday.
It was shot yesterday. I think of that car chase. I mean, it's a phenomenal car chase, and I think of it every single time I drive that stretch of Sunset Boulevard. I can't drive that stretch without thinking of this movie.
Yeah, it's really
in my mind. But see, what happened because of that is that in my mind, this became a really good movie. Because that's all I remember of this movie is that car chase and the last shot and the song during that last shot.
Right.
And that song is so good. And she's so beautiful, and that shot lingers on her for so long that it's almost as if the previous 2 hours of your life that you wanted back get wiped out, and you walk out thinking, wow, that was really good, because the song and looking at her.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the song is, of course, Against All Odds by Phil Collins.
Yeah, which is a great song.
It's iconic, and it was attached to this movie. They just threw it on the end, though. I love that. You think it's going to be throughout the whole movie, and it's not. Larry Carlton, I think, did a lot of it, and most of it is just like really screechy, big guitar stuff. And
there are slight little thematic homages to the song that's going to come at the end, but little ones. Since we're talking about music a little bit, can we play a clip from the movie?
Have it?
That has one of my favorite moments in the whole movie.
Please do.
And I apologize for the sound. In the future, we're going to have better technology for ripping the clip. So the sound isn't spectacular in this clip, but the visual will give you the idea. At this moment, Jeff Bridges has gone to the nightclub where that his friend and antagonist James Woods, who we'll talk about more later.
Oh yeah.
And we will talk about him, but he's sitting in the audience while Kid Creole and the Coconuts is playing on stage at the nightclub. And I just want you to watch this quick little clip. Here we go. But I can't lie to you. No room has come and through. Oh, another girl's around in my curiosity. Another girl's around in my curiosity. And there's nothing that I can do except tell you that my thoughts all of you.
Okay, my favorite thing is Jeff Bridges seriously watching this.
Tell me though that they didn't know when they were editing, because they cut to him and he's like, the look on his face is like, what am I watching?
I mean, let's face it, Kid Creole, super talented, could dance like crazy, really gifted entertainer. I don't know what this was doing in this movie. It is literally like it was like Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Would have been equally like, of course, why not? It didn't make any sense at all.
I love Kid Creole. I love the song. I love what they're
it's just like, why is this happening right now?
And that's what the look on Jeff Bridges' face says. It's like, why are we interrupting this movie for a music video?
When it's the wrong vibe to set up for like his like James Woods' creepy coke den, place. It's really something. Am I wrong? They never really talk about how Jeff Bridges and James Woods know each other, do they?
No.
Okay.
No. You get the feeling that they go back to high school or something, but they don't go into it. That they were friends before the point shaving scheme happened.
Yeah.
Can we talk about there is one, I think, spectacular performance in this movie.
Swoosie Kurtz.
Spectacular. And such a breath of fresh air and life in the middle of this movie. But I do have one plot question about Swoosie Kurtz. The first time we see her, she's the secretary at the legal office where Jeff Bridges goes to talk to his lawyer after he's been cut from the team, and she tells him several times that she's a big fan of his, just thinks he's awesome. And as he's leaving the office, she tries to make a date with him, and she says, I'll be at the Ginger Man after work. And he says, oh, okay, great, right? As if he's going to go meet her there. So that's the last time we see her for a while. He goes to Mexico.
Yeah.
Weeks and weeks go by.
Yeah.
He comes back to LA. And then later on in the movie, he's in a little trouble and he needs some help and he needs to get into that legal office.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to the Ginger Man and
she's waiting for him
at the bar drunk. So here's my question. Has she been there for 5 weeks waiting for him to show up?
Exactly what I thought had happened. Yeah, that's what I felt they were trying to tell me. Yeah.
And she's like, look, you're finally here.
She wasn't even like, what took you so long? She was just happy he showed up. Didn't matter. 5 weeks later. Very funny. I miss Swoosie Kurtz. She used to be in a lot of movies, and I haven't seen her in a while in stuff, but it was nice to see her again.
She's spectacular. I met her several times, and she's as lovely as you would want her to be.
I'm a big fan of hers. She's great.
Yeah.
there's a lot of really great character actors in this. I think she's the standout for me, but I'm always into Dorian Harewood.
Yeah.
Dorian Harewood, I mean, from Full Metal Jacket, he's that performance is so iconic, and that was such a huge movie for me, and that character was such a big part of that movie. He's a person I always feel was underserved as an actor. Like I don't understand why he didn't star in a lot more movies than he did. He's still working. He's had a great career, but I just love that guy. Always love seeing him. Always love seeing Saul Rubinek.
Yeah.
And I want to give a shout out. You know who's, to me, like really deserves a big shout out?
Who's that?
Saul Rubinek's stunt work in this movie. He gets thrown into a drum kit, and that's actually him. They throw him in a wide shot across the whole set and into a real drum set, and he really did it.
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
That was pretty impressive.
Not a stunt that I necessarily would have done. So good for him. Good for him. That was impressive. I love him. He's really great, Saul Rubinek, right?
Yeah.
Like, remember him in The Unforgiven?
Yep.
He's great in that.
No, he does some nice work in this.
And then Richard Widmark is always great to see. I mean, come on.
Well, the guy who pushed the grandma down the stairs. So,
Right. Another throwback to the noir, because Richard Widmark was a noir, like a famous noir actor from the 50s, and
yeah,
just great. I remember seeing him. I was staying in a hotel in Santa Barbara, and I remember going to have brunch and feeling very fancy because I was having brunch in Santa Barbara, which is like, fancier than a normal brunch.
Yeah,
I was feeling very special because Richard Widmark was there having brunch as well, having like a mimosa, the whole thing. It was a beautiful Santa Barbara morning, and he paid me no mind. He didn't want to have anything to do with me, but it was a little moment of Hollywood history. And I think he was eating pancakes. He's very famous for loving pancakes. I think he was actually eating them there.
Well, he gets some dialogue in this movie that I have here.
You have a favorite line of dialogue from Mr. Widmark?
Where he says to James Woods, "That idiot football player you were going to get has got me by the balls."
Yes. Some fine work there. I gotta say, this says here on IMDb that the writers were Eric Hughes and Daniel Mainwaring, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna guess there were 9 other ghostwriters on this film.
Yeah,
I think like 9 or 10.
Yeah. One other dialogue thing is a moment that I truly don't understand, where he comes over to her house after coming back from Mexico. She's gone back to the bad boyfriend, James Woods, and he comes over to her house and he says, "But what about all the things you and I shared? What about Sully? You remember him, that guy we killed down there in the jungle? He's got me one way or the other, doesn't he? Doesn't he?" He slams her against the wall. She screams in frustration, and then out of nowhere, he says to her, there's nothing that prompts this. He says to her, "Yeah, go ahead. You rip the shirt off. Come on,
Yes.
Rip the shirt off. Rip the fucking shirt off."
That was weird.
It's not like she starts to rip it off and then he says, "Go ahead."
It's like it never occurred to her. She's like, "Why?"
Like he's asking her to rip his shirt off.
He's looking at him like, "That's a nice shirt.
Yeah.
Why would I rip that shirt?"
So he says, "Rip the shirt off," and she starts crying. And then he says, "What am I going to do, Jess?" And she says, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He says, "Oh, I love you." She says, "Help me, help me." He says, "What are we going to do?"
I didn't write down quotes because I
It's
was
a
doing
waste of
stock,
paper.
but there's one here which I noted when I saw the movie that's in IMDb, and they say this is a great quote. Uh, James Woods says to Jeff Bridges, "What the hell made you think you could handle Jessie, who's the woman in the movie?" He says,
Right.
"I bet you used to bring her home flowers." And Jeff Bridges' character says, "No, you don't have to do that when you're living in the jungle. You just take her outside and show her what tree you're going to do it under tonight. Hell, we had lots of trees."
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's like oh my God.
They were striving for that arch noir kind of dialogue and the cutting stuff,
And
and
not succeeding.
it just
Then,
didn't.
okay, now here's a moment I want to ask you about. They're all in the car, right?
Yeah,
James
that was
Woods
so
is
awkward. That was like, we're gonna go do it, and then like Richard Widmark's driving in his Volvo,
driving the car,
with them.
right? That asshole sitting next to you, right? He says that thing about James Woods being that asshole sitting next to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then James Woods is like, I don't have to take this crap from you. And Dorian Harewood, sitting in the front seat next to James Woods, pulls out a gun and points it into the back seat at James Woods. And James Woods pulls out his own gun, and they're pointing their guns at each other like, here's a standoff. And then they cut.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is the car arriving where they're going. And so there's
no dark mountain at night where you don't see anything, and then they proceed to have another standoff that makes zero sense.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. That's where I got confused a little bit as to where, because it felt like the movie was in control for most of it, like not maybe a great script, maybe some problems with it, but like in control. And then it got to the end, and that just the 4 or 5 of them standing on that mountain staring at each other, just like trying to have a standoff, was so it became like an episode of Simon and Simon, or like it reminded me of an episode of like Magnum PI in like the 5th season or something. You know, it was like a TV episode. They ran out of money or steam or something.
Yeah. Well, and the security guards in the legal office with Susie Kurtz,
They're like robot men.
Well, also, like, they're not. She says you're not the real security guards. So they're guys who work for James Woods.
Yeah, but
where do they get security guard uniforms and get into the law? How do they get into the law offices?
And you're telling me James Woods is so powerful that he has like a battalion of secret police officers that have German shepherds working for him? I don't think so. Don't think so.
Okay. Well,
what is your favorite thing in the movie? Because I have a clear favorite thing that is in this movie, and it's so good.
There is a moment that Alex Karras has that reminds me of every time I have been watching my students in an acting class and I know that they don't have a clue what they're doing.
Okay, they're floundering a little bit with the scene, not quite able to get there.
Or here, well, I'll just play the clip.
That'll do.
So here's this moment with Alex Karras, and just think of we talk a lot about the physicality of a character, the physical life of a character, and our physical life on stage or on the set, and just here we go.
They screwed my shoulder and they cut me. Shit. That's it, no word. Well, they promised me they were going to keep you. This is behind my back. Yeah, I figured. You know, the first thing that shot through my head was they're going to pay me off. But fuck, I'm going to play football. Yeah, well, not this year, not with that shoulder.
Okay, so that's an actor saying, I don't know what to do with my hand. Right? And you remember when you were a brand new actor and you hadn't worked before, and you see actors who you can see an actor in a scene suddenly going, oh, I should be doing something with what is my hand doing?
There's another tell.
Oh, I lean it on the car. No, I lean it here.
There's another tell because he does that, but then he also plays the whole scene with his face turned away from the camera, which is always when an actor isn't really there. They always kind of like do this. They're like, oh, what's over here? They can't face it.
Pretty great stuff.
But he was a real football player, wasn't he? He wasn't even supposed to be an actor.
He was a real football player, and he also, I think, and he turned in what I thought was a spectacular performance in another movie that's a favorite of mine, is Victor Victoria, where he plays James Garner's bodyguard.
Okay, I haven't seen that in so long.
He delivers such a lovely performance, and somebody just spoke to him and calmed him down and said, right, just stand there and you're going to be great in this. And
when he's just standing and talking and doesn't have to like do any heavy lifting, he's actually really watchable. Even in this, but then it gets complicated and he has to like put his hand somewhere.
Which is rough.
It's hard.
We all know that's hard. That's a bad day on the set when the director says put your hand somewhere.
Yeah. I do want to just give a shout out to the technical side of the movie. I thought they did some very nice camera work, and this was operated. The operator on this was Rob Hahn. Do you remember Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Hahn, who was the operator on Steel Big, Steel Little, which Dad did also in Santa Barbara, Northern California. Rob is one of the great operators, and also now a DP, and has been his own cinematographer for a while too. But I noticed his name in the credits and was like, yeah, it's a nice looking movie. They did a great job with how it looks, Yeah. And that kind of like in that period where, Miami Vice had just started and Michael Mann movies were starting, and that kind of like slick, kind of steely look to things had really kind of been perfected. So Rob Hahn, nice job there.
Very nice job.
My favorite thing in the movie, you didn't ask me what it was, and I'm a little disappointed.
What is your favorite thing in the movie?
Just a little disappointed. So in the future, let's just like remember. Hey Tony, what's your favorite?
You asked me so I should mirror. Psychologists psychologists call it mirroring. So I should mirror better.
Best thing in the movie has got to be James Woods' safe in his office. He has the most amazing security system for his safe I've ever seen in my life. You remember that?
Yep.
Swizzy Kurtz opens his safe, tuning a radio, and has to tune a radio on like the FM dial to several stations, which then unlocks the safe. It unlocks a door that reveals the safe, and then she has to unlock it. Yeah, it's a whole. Yeah, but I mean, just that whole like Thunderbird. It was like a Thunderbirds set, like out of nowhere. Like, what movie are we? What is this? Dr. No now? What?
Yeah,
that was amazing.
And what I think is also kind of amazing and says a lot is that we've been talking about this movie for an hour. And we have not talked about James Woods or his performance.
Who we both have met, and you actually used to know a bit.
Well, we're cinema brothers because he played Dad's son in
Joshua Then and Now.
Joshua Then and Now, and that's when I got to know him, and then
we hung out on that set together. So we both met him at that time, but I wasn't of drinking age, so there was limited. You as a young person could only spend so much time with James Woods because drinking was probably involved.
Yeah, and when I was in law school, there was hanging. It wasn't like James and I were going out together, but there was a particular bar that a lot of people hung out at that I would see him at from time to time, and we'd end up, at the same table having drinks. And he was,
right.
it
was nice to you.
He was a nice fellow. And now, well,
I don't know what to say. I haven't seen him since I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. I didn't talk politics with him then, but I have.
You're not going to talk politics with him now.
Well, I've only heard, I don't know anything about the man. I've just heard he leans a little bit farther to the right than I do. That's all I can say.
That's all you can say.
Know.
Yeah,
really don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, who was better? Who was better at playing like slime balls in the 80s than him? He was great at that.
Some things come naturally to people.
He was good at it.
Yeah.
That may still be. I haven't seen him in a while, but
yeah. So I don't have anything else to say about that movie.
Yeah, I don't really either. I mean, we were pretty tough on it. I think it really, but I honestly, like, anybody that lived in the 80s and then anybody who didn't could really get something out of this movie. It is such a time capsule. I mean, it's really one of those, this movie could be a great drinking game movie.
Yes.
Like, it really could be. It really would be a good drinking game movie. Like, you come up with something about it. Its style is so of its time. It has a weird vibe about it. I don't know. It's a really fun watch. It really is.
No, I had a ball watching it.
Jeff Bridges is, I mean, has he ever been bad? Like, he can't really be bad. He doesn't seem to, like,
he's not bad.
It's not a part that's like his kind of part in a lot of ways, but he was good, Yeah,
but he's gotten so much better.
What the fuck kind of football team was that? It looked like their locker was at the YMCA. Like, and
it also looked like there were 8 guys on the team.
They were cutting some corners. I guess they just had to fly the crew to Cozumel and save money on that.
Yeah. Should we talk about a little bit of food?
Well, you're once again you're gonna shame me a little bit. I did not. I don't have as fancy a thing to show, but I'm happy to talk about it. We had a lot of
stuff going on this week, and I want that. I'm gonna make that recipe. That your stuff looks awesome. What do you want to start with? Mine or yours?
Well, let's just do mine. Mine's quick. It's a recipe I found online quickly. It's a white chili, which doesn't sound very exciting, and it arguably isn't. But it's a white chili in the way that there's, like, white clam sauce or what, there you go. It's kind of sweet. There's a lot of corn in it. It's almost like a corn chowder in a way, but it's got a little punch to it because there's some fresh hot pepper in it, and it's real tasty, man.
That looks pretty great. And we are going to put it's not in there now, but Tony has sent me the link to the recipe, so we're going to pop that into the description for this video. Actually, we're not going to pop it into the link for the description of this video. If you sign up,
you got to do fancy stuff to
sign up for my newsletter. And when you sign up for my newsletter, and the sign up for the newsletter is already in the description for the video, you sign up for the newsletter, and I send you a link to a secret page that has all of the recipes from this show. And I also want to remind people that if you send us recipes, we may cook them and talk about them in the show.
Well, I'm not going to cook them during the show. That I'm not
during the show, but we'll cook them, but then talk about
cooking. I'll tell you what it was like to cook it, but I'm not going to let you see that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a shout out to this salad, which is behind the.
That looks spectacular.
It's really good. Amelia she's a salad genius in And this is she's gotten into using quinoa in salad, which is I didn't think I was gonna like. I love it. It's really good mixed in. So get a little extra protein. It's nice.
Sandra Smith says the chili looks good. It's
Thanks, Sandra.
awesome.
I was pleased. Simple, good. But you did something. You did fancier stuff than that.
I went crazy this week. I talked about that. I love this show on NPR called The Splendid Table, which used to be hosted by a woman named Lynn Rossetto Casper, and I actually had the opportunity to be a guest on the show years ago, which was an amazing experience because I was such a fan of the show and of Lynn Rossetto Casper that I was flabbergasted that I got to be on the show. Then she retired, and a fellow named Francis Lamb, who's equally wonderful, took over hosting the show. And if you don't listen to it, you really should. It's a great hour-long show on NPR, and they have a podcast about all things to do with food, and they talk to food people. And there was a whole episode on chili peppers, on peppers, so mild, hot. And Francis Lamb talked about this recipe, which is a braised chicken thighs, where basically it's basically just red pepper and onion and garlic, and just more of just plain old red pepper than you could ever think you would need in one recipe. So
because it boils down.
It just reduces and reduces. Yeah. So you start off with a bunch of onion and saute it down. You can see that in the middle picture on top. A bunch of onion and garlic sauteing down. Well, first you brown the chicken thighs, then take them out, and then sweat those onion and garlic down for a long time, and then add the red peppers, and it just turns into this mush. And then you tuck the chicken thighs into it and throw it in the oven and braise it for about 45 minutes. And it just comes out.
That looks amazing.
Spectacular. So that was
a lot of work.
It didn't actually take that long. It's just slicing a lot of red peppers. But then I also I made some variation on our thing of last week with the frico idea that we
perfecting that. Yeah.
Well, not perfecting it, but what I did was I made some breakfast quesadillas with what I would do is I would take 2 corn tortillas and heat them up. And then I would take 1 corn tortilla and put a lot of cheddar cheese on it and put another corn tortilla on top in the great pan that you got me, the cast iron. And let that cheese melt. And as it came out of the 2 corn tortillas, it did like a little bit of frico around the edges.
Sure it did.
Then I would take that out and put it on a plate. And then I would quickly fry up 2 eggs and put those on top of it with some green salsa. And
there you go. See. Whoa. Okay. You have created what is essentially my ideal breakfast. This is, and I'm not kidding. Do you remember were you hanging out in LA when Melrose there was a Nouvelle Mexican place right next to the LA Iworks. Adam used to go there all the time. God, what was it called? Anyway, it was my favorite place for forever.
I don't think I did go there.
And they did this. They had this breakfast, and it was the first time that I had like that kind of green sauce and the whole thing.
Green sauce, sour cream. Fried.
This is a memory for me. Like this is a big deal. I can't believe I forgot the name of that restaurant. It's been gone for so long.
Okay, well, if you like that kind of breakfast and you have got the pan,
I have no excuses.
Then what you have to do is also make this. Here is a skillet bread. It's a beer bread. made with cheddar cheese, Parmesan, and green chilies. And I also chopped up a lot of very hot pickled jalapenos and put it in there.
Oh,
And then you bake it in the pan. And then what I did for lunch today was I took a big slice of that chili cheese beer bread.
right.
And I cut it in half the long way so that I had two very thin slices. And I threw some butter in that skillet that you got me, which is so good and seasoned now. And I grilled that beer bread in there and then fried eggs on top of the grilled beer bread with the green salsa and sour cream.
Right. Well, those are fighting words. That's just crazy.
And
sounds amazing.
It was pretty great. That was my food week. But then last night, you know what I did last night? Was I opened a can of Bush's baked beans and fried up some sliced hot dogs and had
a fine time. Had a great time.
But it's just Franks and beans.
Yeah, which is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, I made a tuna melt. I'm not going to talk about that on the show. It was a good tuna melt. But I'm not. What are you going to say?
Tuna melts are great. Oh, this is my friend Ronell, who you're going to meet the next time you come out here. Great fella. Hello, Ronell.
Hey, how are you, Ronell?
Ronell doesn't know this yet, so this is being revealed to Ronell live on air.
Okay.
You know this, but the world doesn't know this yet. I am, due to pandemic, I'm going to be heading back to New York in a few weeks to stay with our mom, because I'm alone and she's alone. Everybody else in the family has a spouse or somebody they're going through this with, but our mom and I, we're losing our minds, and we don't know when this is going to be over. So I'm heading back to New York, and I'm going to hang out with my mom until this is over. And my roommate and I are just throwing everything, because he's not here, because he's doing the same thing. He's taking care of his mom. We're throwing everything into storage until the pandemic is over. And Ronell doesn't know it, but we're going to be giving him a call and saying, hey, can we hire you? And there's another friend who we're going to hire to help us move everything into the truck and into storage.
I'm sure Ronell's really happy that he called in the show. I'm sure he's like
very excited.
Like, wow, I'm really glad that I got roped into this.
Well, he's going to get the call whether he watches the show or not.
Okay.
The call is coming, Ronell.
Ronell, you're a good friend to my brother, and don't feel like you have to do anything that you feel.
No, there's going to be money involved.
All right.
There's going to be money involved.
Well, I can't help you move because I'm here.
You're in New York. And also the thing about this is we realized that we may be doing an episode of this show where I'm actually on the side of the highway in my car.
I think we really have to try to do that.
Yeah. I probably won't be drinking beer at the time.
Even if you make it back to the East Coast, I think you should just go out on the street and do one from the street, just because it'll be fun. Did we pick a film that did we pick it for next week?
We did pick a film for next week. We are going to watch The Firm, which stars Ed Harris and Gene Hackman and some guy named Tom.
A dude named Tom. Yeah.
And there's also a lot of other really spectacular. That's a spectacular cast,
and a hell of a pedigree from the production side as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna do a deep dive into that. We also want to say, please subscribe and like this video. Help us keep the lights on. And
if you like it, don't do anything you don't want to do. If you don't like it, don't like it.
I don't care. No, like it and
tell them that they have to like it.
They have to like it.
All right.
And Also, Monday, this coming Monday at 5 p.m. on my other show, Tips and Techniques for Actors, Authors, and Storytellers, I will be interviewing screenwriter and producer David Rambo, who worked on CSI Crime Scene Investigation, Empire, and the upcoming Netflix drama Tiny Pretty Things. So that will be this Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So tune in for that.
Right. Where can people? So if anybody is listening, doesn't know where to find you, where can they find you on social? Where else can they look for your work or your imprint?
I think my I'm supposed to know. My Twitter is. I don't know these off the top of my head. That's horrible, isn't it?
Well,
you can go to my website, which is MatthewArkinStudio.com, and all of my stuff is there. My Facebook, my Facebook page, Matthew Arkin Studio. Mm-hmm. You can follow that. I think my Instagram is Matthew Arkin Author, and I think my Twitter is just Arkin Matthew.
Just to keep it exciting.
Yeah. What about yours?
I'm on Facebook, which I don't really interact with very much. Facebook generally is more like a phone book for me.
Right.
I'm more active on Instagram as Clem Torment, or you can just look for Anthony Arkin. I'm there. You'll find me.
But you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of that into the description for the videos.
Okay. So great.
And if you go to YouTube, well, you're already at YouTube if you're watching this. Subscribe to this channel and come join us next week when we talk about The Firm. So
exactly.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We absolutely love having you here. And we will see you next week. And, buddy, I love you.
You too, man.
All right. Talk to you in a little bit.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.